stood side by side, emblems of power, wealth, and carefully curated deceit. Zainab Ibrahim, Linda Pascal, Adesua Adewale. To the public, they were paragons of grace, billionaire wives known for charity galas, glossy magazine covers, and picture-perfect families. But behind their lavish compound gates, secrets festered like wounds covered in gold leaf. Zainab, wife to oil magnate Musa Ibrahim, was the queen of subtle manipulation. Her perfume whispered of danger, her smile concealed blueprints of betrayal. She often claimed she ran a high-end fashion consultancy. In reality, it was a shell, a veil for a network of blackmail and high-class escorts hidden beneath layers of NDAs. Linda, married to Pascal, a shipping tycoon with ties across Europe, appeared docile, elegant, and serene. But whispers followed her. It started with late-night calls to Europe. Then private visits from a younger family friend, who looked a little too familiar. Pascal never questioned her. That was his first mistake. And Adesua, the youngest and most envied, married to Chief Adewale, a retired general and powerful politician. She played the dutiful wife flawlessly, but her phone was full of encrypted messages from a young police inspector with whom she shared more than pillow talk. He was her inside man for laundering funds siphoned from Adewale's offshore accounts. On the surface, these women glittered. But diamonds cut deep. It began with a gala. The Women of Wealth Foundation hosted its annual masquerade ball at the Eco-Atlantic Towers. Every influential figure in West Africa attended. Cameras flashed. Laughter floated like champagne bubbles. But inside a private lounge, Zainab was whispering into Linda's ear. "He's getting suspicious," she said, eyes scanning the crowd. "Pascal has started tracing calls." Linda stiffened, sipping her champagne to mask her fear. "Then we erase everything. Nonso knows what to do." Adesua joined them, draped in silk and secrets. "Chief is planning a trip to South Africa. I'll have a window then." The three clinked glasses, but behind their eyes was the flicker of fear. What none of them knew was that Musa had hired a private investigator. Okon, a quiet man with eyes like steel and instincts sharpened by war, was in the crowd. Posing as a bartender, he watched, recorded, and smiled. Zainab thought she was 2 steps ahead. She didn't know Okon had hacked her calendar weeks ago. Days later, Musa confronted Zainab. "Who is Kwame Mensah?" he asked, holding up a photo. Zainab's eyes twitched, but she smiled. "A fashion partner in Accra." "Why?" "Strange. He's also the CEO of a mining firm that beat my bid in Ghana, using the same specs I submitted." Zainab shrugged. "Coincidence?" Musa said nothing, but that night, he changed every password, froze joint accounts, and called Okon. Pascal was next. A coded email landed in his inbox. "Your enemy sleeps in silk beside you." Attached, a video. Linda and Nonso, his son's best friend, exchanging a kiss. And documents signed in his name, transferring estate holdings. His chest tightened. But Pascal was not a man who reacted. He calculated. He waited. And Chief Adewale? He was in Abuja, preparing a senatorial bid. One night, he found a strange ledger in his study, transfers he hadn't authorized. His security chief called, "Sir, you need to see this footage from the guest house." The screen flickered. Adesua, with Inspector Tunde, talking, kissing, laughing. Then, her words. "He trusts me too much. We'll drain the last account by July." The general's blood froze. All 3 men realized they had been living in an illusion. And illusions, no matter how golden, always collapse. Banana Island had never felt colder. The marble floors of Zainab's mansion echoed with silence. Her staff tiptoed, sensing the tension. She stood in front of a mirror, applying her signature red lipstick, pretending everything was normal. But her hand trembled. She had just received a message from an anonymous number. "You thought you could play everyone. Game over, Queen Bee." Attached was a CCTV image of her meeting Kwame, the one only she and Kwame were supposed to have access to. Zainab's heart thudded. How? Across the estate, Linda stared at her cracked phone screen. Nonso had gone silent for 2 days. When she called his line, an EFCC official picked up. "We'll be in touch, madam." Click. Panic rose in her throat. She turned to the safe in her walk-in closet, only to find it empty. Pascal had cleaned it out. He hadn't said a word. That was the scariest part. Meanwhile, Adesua returned from a business trip to find Chief Adiwale calmly waiting in the living room, sipping tea. His favorite mug, the one she bought for him when they married. "How was Johannesburg?" he asked, eyes steady. She forced a smile. "Productive." "Why?" He placed a folder on the table. "Because you never left Nigeria." Inside, photos, hotel receipts, security footage. Every lie she'd told exposed. Adesua dropped into a chair, numb. "You tapped my phone," she whispered. "I tapped your world," he replied coldly. What none of the wives knew was that the men had joined forces. Musa, Pascal, and Chief Adiwale, once strangers divided by class and ego, had formed an unlikely alliance. They called it the Brotherhood of the Betrayed. Each had shared what they found. Each had pledged silence until the net closed completely. It was Okon who did the groundwork, building timelines, syncing financials, gathering evidence. A silent predator with no sympathy for polished women who played dirty. One by one, warrants were issued, quietly, discreetly. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Zainab arrived at her spa appointment to find 3 uniformed officers waiting. "Mrs. Ibrahim, you're under arrest for conspiracy to defraud, financial espionage, and aiding blackmail networks." She didn't resist. She had already packed an emergency bag. Linda was arrested outside her son's school. The ultimate humiliation. She begged the officers to let her wear sunglasses. They refused. Adesua tried to escape. She ran to her family's estate in Ekiti, but Chief Adiwale had paid off every local contact. They arrested her while she hid in a fruit cellar. The media went wild. 3 billionaire wives, caught like petty thieves. Zainab, the brains behind a hidden escort syndicate. Linda, the beautiful face of a real estate scam that stole millions. Adesua, the youngest, charged with insider theft and colluding with a corrupt officer. In court, none of them looked at each other. The sisterhood that once held champagne glasses and shared secrets had shattered like broken glass. Each blamed the other. Each thought she was the smartest. Each had underestimated their husbands. But this was only the beginning of their fall. What waited ahead was not just prison or shame, but the truth of who they had become, and what they had lost chasing power behind masks of perfection. Their arrests making headlines across town. But within days, they were released, no formal charges pressed, thanks to powerful lawyers and quiet negotiations behind closed doors. Yet freedom was hollow. The moment they returned home, their husbands made it clear they were no longer welcome. Adesua was shown the door with icy finality. Chief Adiwale packed her belongings himself, leaving her nothing but the clothes on her back and a few handbags. "You're done here," he said coldly, his eyes devoid of the love that once was. Zainab came home to an empty mansion. Musa's silence was louder than any words. She found herself locked out, her belongings tossed onto the driveway like garbage. The charity empire she had built was now a ruin, and her marriage, a memory. Linda faced the harshest rejection. Pascal didn't wait for explanations. He ordered her to leave immediately, cutting all ties. The house she once called home felt like a prison. She gathered what little she could carry and vanished into the night, heartbroken and alone. Though they walked free from the law's grip, their lives were shattered by the only people who once promised to protect them, their husbands. The night they were thrown out, their hearts shattered and pride bruised, the 3 women gathered in a small, dimly lit apartment in Victoria Island. No mansion, no luxury, just the cold reality of betrayal and loss. But beneath the pain, a fierce fire ignited. Adesua, Zainab, and Linda, once queens of Lagos elite, were no longer victims. They were survivors. And survivors do not stay down. Adesua, her eyes burning with vengeance, spoke first. "They think they've won. They've pushed us out like dirt. But every kingdom has its cracks. Every secret has its price. Zainab, sharper and colder than ever, nodded. I still have contacts. People who owe me favors. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. Linda, quieter but steelier, clenched her fists. Pascal humiliated me. But he doesn't know the woman I've become. The three formed a pact. No longer would they be puppets in their husbands' games. They would strike back and expose every lie, every betrayal, every hidden sin. Weeks passed. Under the cover of darkness, they gathered intel, hacked phones, followed shadowy trails into the underbelly of Lagos' richest circles. Adesua used her charm and insider knowledge to infiltrate the new wife's circle, uncovering whispers of affairs and secret accounts. Zainab reactivated her network of contacts, reaching deep into the world of power brokers, politicians, and corrupt businessmen who thrived on the secrets of the elite. Linda tracked Pascal's financial dealings, unearthing evidence of embezzlement, money laundering, and hidden offshore accounts. Together, they pieced together a web of deception so vast it threatened to bring their husbands crashing down. It started with a bombshell at a high-profile event, an exclusive dinner hosted by one of Lagos' most influential families. The room glittered with wealth and pretense. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A sleek tablet appeared on the main screen. First, a recording of Chief Adewale's new wife in a heated conversation with her female assistant, planning to siphon funds from Adewale's accounts. The crowd murmured, stunned. Next, a leaked video showed Musa's religious leader accepting bribes and swindling congregants, his supposed sanctuary nothing but a scam. Then, Linda's findings went live, bank statements, emails, and photos exposing Pascal's financial crimes and abusive behavior, all meticulously documented. Gasps, whispers, shocked faces everywhere. The room erupted into chaos as the powerful men's carefully guarded reputations crumbled in seconds. The wives stood together on the stage afterward, united, their eyes fierce. They had been betrayed, discarded, and humiliated. But now, they held the ultimate power, the truth. The fallout was immediate and explosive. Chief Adewale's new wife vanished from the social scene as investigations into financial fraud swept through the city. Adewale himself faced intense scrutiny, forced to answer questions he had long evaded. The empire he built began to tremble. Musa's reputation was in ruins. His followers abandoned him, his fortunes seized by authorities, and the so-called religious sanctuary exposed as nothing more than a den of corruption. Musa, once proud and untouchable, was left isolated and broken. Pascal's life unraveled completely. His daughter's memoir sparked public outrage. Police opened investigations into his abuse and financial crimes. Friends turned their backs. Investors pulled out. He was left with nothing but bitter regret. Adesua, Zainab, and Linda did not just survive, they thrived. Adesua launched a new business, a luxury perfume line inspired by her own journey. It quickly gained acclaim for its bold, unique scents and fierce branding, Phoenix, rising from the ashes of betrayal. Her sharp mind and unyielding spirit attracted investors, and soon, she was back among Lagos elite, this time on her own terms. Zainab used her network to become a powerful advocate for women's rights and victims of trafficking. She turned her past mistakes into lessons, founding a non-profit that helped vulnerable girls escape exploitation. Her charity was lauded internationally, and she earned a second chance to rebuild her life with dignity. Linda, freed from the shadows of shame, moved to Accra and became a respected legal advocate, specializing in family law and abuse cases. Her courage inspired many, and she found peace in fighting for justice rather than hiding from it. At a gala celebrating their new ventures, the three women stood side by side, stronger, wiser, unbreakable. They had been caught in the act, but not as victims. They were survivors, warriors. And as Lagos' glittering skyline shone behind them, the city knew one truth. No matter how deep the betrayal, no matter how high the fall, there is always a way to rise again.